This
No, I
conference
don't
will.
see myself. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining us. As a reminder, before we get started with today's distance learning in the interpretive mode, if you could just take a quick look at our video conference etiquette. We do have quite a few people with us today. If you would be so kind as to leave your microphone on mute unless you are presenting, or at the end we'll have some time for questions and answers. That would be fantastic. Also, at any time, if you have a question or a comment, feel free to leave it in the chat. We have Noemi is going to be helping us kind of sift through those questions and make sure that we get them answered. So if we don't get them right away, we will get to them soon. All right. So today, distance learning in the interpretive mode, obviously an incredibly important topic for all of us. So thank you so much for being here for the second of 6 tech chats in the FLENJ April 2020 series. FLENJ stands for Foreign Language Educators of New Jersey. So we welcome our New Jersey peeps and also all of the people who are not New Jersey peeps. For today, you are honorary New Jersey peeps, so we are thrilled to have you. Thank you so much. My name is Julia Koch. I am the Vice President of
Okay,
Advocacy.
I hear you typing, so.
My name is Julia Koch. I'm the Vice President of Advocacy for Foreign Language Educators of New Jersey. So I would like to take a moment to thank everyone who made this possible. Our three presenters for today, Noemi Rodriguez, Alice Simonson, our president. And we want to thank you for showing up to this tech chat, for taking the time to learn something new, for your students, to be of support for your colleagues. We're all doing the best we can, and FLENJ wants to offer those resources to you. So as you know, we're offering this tech chat series at no cost to you, but if you are in a position financially where you might be able to donate $5 or $10 to FLENJ, we are a nonprofit organization. So if that's something that you are capable of doing, we would welcome that support as we continue to bring you quality content as we move forward into this uncharted territory of distance learning. So I'm going to take a moment and introduce our facilitators for today. As I said, my name is Julia Koch. Ariane Dowd, would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself?
This is my wife's computer, so I am Dano Chigrosso. I teach Italian at Memorial High School.
Oh, calling Ariane Dowd. Is she gone? All right, we'll come back to Ariane in a minute. Is the Noemi or Alice, could you let me know if my screen sharing is still working? Nope, okay. So let's go back to that.
Yeah, I think some people are having, I had to exit and come back. I was having issues with it freezing. I noticed a couple other folks had to leave and come back. So I think they're just trying to work out some technical glitches.
All right. So I'll say again for anybody who didn't hear me, my name is Julia Koch. I am the Vice President of Advocacy for Foreign Language Educators of New Jersey. Thanks so much for being here. And our three presenters today are Ariane Dowd, Jessica Reyes, and Martina Bex. So let's see if Ariane is in the house. And if she is, we'll have her introduce herself. And if she's not, maybe we'll have Jessica introduce herself.
Could you hear me? Because I don't know why my video isn't showing. I'll try it. See if you guys can see me.
We can hear you.
All right, let me see if you could. All right, sorry about that. It's not like, okay, could you see me now, or? But you can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay, sorry. I don't know why it's not letting me share the video. I'm actually K-5 Spanish teacher at Middletown Public School. I have about 500 students or so. So I'm really excited to share what we're doing and what works, at the K-5 level, and right now what we're doing for virtual learning. So
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica. We really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today.
No, thank you.
Martina, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm Martina Bex. I am a former Spanish teacher. Now I just work with teachers. I'm home with my kids full time, like everybody else is right now. But that's the standard for me. So I taught 6 through 12 Spanith in Anchorage, Alaska, and now I primarily work with teachers to create resources for 6 through 12th grade learners, and have been doing a lot of figuring out in adapting curriculum for distance learning over the last couple of weeks.
Awesome. We are in desperate need of your expertise, so we're very grateful for you to take the time to be here with us today.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Ariane, are you back in the chat?
Julia, she's having trouble right now connecting. She's talking, but she's not. Yeah, so I'm suggesting the same thing that Alice just shared, to log in or log out, log back in, and hopefully that'll work with the audio. It was working before when we were on here testing it, so maybe because we have so many people joining us.
This is going to be a full house today. All right. Well, while we wait to see if Ariane is able to connect so that she can share with us, if we have to switch things up, we might go in a slightly different order. But as a reminder, today's kind of topics of conversations, we're going to focus on the interpretive mode. This is the first of 3 chat kind of mini series embedded in our April Tech Chat. So we'll be looking at interpersonal and presentational modes and platforms that support activities in those modes in the chats to come. For today, we're going to focus on interpretive, with obviously an emphasis on distance learning activities and helpful resources for you. All right. And as you can see in this slideshow that you all either have shared with you already or will have access to, we have links to the slideshows from all 3 of our presenters, as well as everything from the template that's used in this Google slide, to some opportunities for screen recording tools and some authentic video resources. So feel free to take notes, ask questions as you have them, and just kind of dump whatever you need into the chat, and we will get to you as soon as we can. All right, I'm going to unshare my screen here and see if Ariane is able to talk.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yay!
All right, awesome. I don't know what happened. It wasn't working before. Hi, my name's Ariane. My children are screaming in the background. I'm sorry if you hear them right now. But yeah, I'm a Spanish teacher for intermediates, Spanish 3, 4 honors and 5 honors. And we went to distance learning on Friday, the 13th of March. And that's pretty much my introduction. And I'm excited. Oh, I also wanted to say thank you so much to Noah, me, and Julia for facilitating, because this is so awesome, and we're so lucky to have FLENJ sharing professional development in these unprecedented times. And thank you so much to Jessica and Martina and all the other people that are sharing. I'm so appreciative to get new ideas and freshen up my online classroom. So thank you. Did you want me to share my screen now?
Yes, if you wouldn't mind, that would be fabulous.
Okay, perfect. Well, let me see if it works. Your entire screen. Let's see, I hit your entire screen. 3 things come up. It says entire screen, application window, Chrome tab. I guess I'll hit that, but it won't let me share for some reason. Let me see if, oh, there we go, perfect. Okay, let me know when you guys can see the screen.
We got it.
Okay, perfect. Sorry for all the difficulties, and thank you for your patience. So yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone again for making this possible. This is really awesome. Right now, I am teaching asynchronously because we are not a one-to-one school and not all students have devices. So if there might be like 2 kids in the high school who have block 1 at the same time, they can't come to all of the Zoom meetings. So we're doing asynchronous right now. One thing that has really helped me with the interpretive mode is e-courses from Fluency Matters. They were giving them away for free. And I took advantage of that because I was currently reading books with my Spanish 3 and 4, and it has been a lifesaver, particularly the e-courses, because they have built-in activities, digital ones. It also reads to the students who are auditory processors, so it's very helpful in that sense that we're actually hearing the book as well as seeing it. And I like that there's built-in quizzes, and I can give options and say, we'll take the quiz for chapter 1 and 2, and I'll take the better score. So that's been really awesome. I could not live without it. It really helped me transition to my distance learning with my students. Another thing is digital games, which I'm sure everybody has used in the past, for example, Kahoot or Quizlet or Gimkit, and we already have them maybe in our digital tool repertoire. So you can just take those games, and then I included little links on the directions on how to do it and make them self-paced for an asynchronous classroom. Or if you're Zooming with your students, you could play live with them. But it is really nice to have that option to do self-paced if kids can't make a Zoom, so that they can get the practice and the input at whatever hour of the day they need to do it. So that's that. Gimkit is another one that's offering the self-pacing. I think you can get Gimkit for free. I pay for it, but I'm pretty sure that you can get a remote right now for free because so many companies are giving everything free right now. Also, Quizlet Teacher Upgrade. I recently got that, and I'm probably going to pay for it because I love it. I can see what activities my students do. It lets me give them choice and say, you know, you can pick any 2 activities. You can do the match, the quiz, the gravity, and then I can actually see what they're doing and give them a grade if I have to input a grade. So I love that. And it's another way I'm giving a ton of input on whatever I'm teaching. Flipgrid is a great way. I mean, it is output because students are speaking, but at the same time, they can be getting input from each other. And so before we left school, my students made art projects about the Spanish Civil War. So this image is a picture of one of my students' projects. He's an amazing artist. And then they were all able to talk about their projects on Flipgrid and explain them and what all the symbols meant. And then the cool part was that they were all able to see each other's projects, comment on them, and, you know, ask questions. And so they're sort of, you know, this is the interpersonal mode, but it is also the interpretive mode, and it's fun for them to see their friends and what they're up to and still learn about something we were learning about before we left school. So there's tons of opportunities and things you can do with Flipgrid. I love it. Edpuzzle is another awesome way to give video input to your students, and I like to put a lot of like yes or no questions to make it simple and low stress for them. There's even a note feature where you can write little notes to them, help them understand the video better. And you could do songs too, like have them fill in the lyric. And another great tool is lyrics training, and I can put that link in later if you want to. I just started playing with Loom, which is a screencast. I was so scared to make a screencast because I'm very shy. So the fact I'm doing this is a big deal for me. But I'm having so much fun with it. And one of the things that I absolutely love that you can do with it is if, for example, you do movie talk, you can movie talk your screen and kids can still get a movie talk from you. Or I love map talk. I recently blogged about it and have a couple of things where you can show a map and talk about the map and kids can fill it in. And another great digital tool to do that is using Google Drawing so that they don't have to use paper, because my kids at home, I have 3 children, I'm using so much paper. So maybe to help alleviate that for our students is let them use Google Draw and use the colors and draw on the map on the computer. Might be easier, but obviously if they want to use paper, they're more than welcome to do that too. I always give that option anyway. And also another cool thing about Loom is if you want to practice simulated conversations, which to me are really important since they're on Apple and it's an AP task, you can use Loom to like give the input of your conversation and then they can record with Flipgrid. That's been a fun way for me to use Loom, but I'm sure there's a million other ways. And I haven't used these, I've been playing with it, but there's some freebies in this link from Senorita Spanish about boom cards for, especially for level 1, there's a lot of cool stuff. So definitely check that out. It's a lot of input for students with prepositions and verbs and whatever you might be teaching. And I've been playing with HyperDocs for my intermediate students, and I put the links there if you want to check them out. I really like them because you can include your essential questions, your can-dos, and it has a little format of like engage the student, explore input like videos and text, and then explain so students actually process and write things down, and then finally evaluate. So it slowly moves up the Bloom's taxonomy. So those are really fun. Students, after giving them lots of input, they can make memes, which my students did while they were reading Frida about the Mexican Revolution. And then you can even use Flipgrid and they can explain them, and then students can comment on each other's memes. Or I really love Snaps. I included a little link, which is like digital annotation about any text or art piece that you're studying or absolutely anything. They can digitally annotate with GIFs or GIFs or emojis, Bitmojis, text. And my students have really enjoyed doing that in school and out of school. And then also I wanted to say that images are a really powerful input. And I have a couple of links here that you can look at, like give them memes and they can write hashtags for it, or they can ask just making like that your engaging part of your lesson, like ask me 5 questions. What questions do you have about this image, to get them excited about whatever you're going to teach them. And Senor Wooly is awesome input. It's absolutely wonderful. I pay for it, but right now I'm pretty sure he still has 2 weeks of the free pro subscription. And I hear the El Banco lesson is awesome and teachers are loving it. So I definitely recommend that. I know Martina Bex is here and she has free Garbanzo, which I've been using, which is also awesome. And that's pretty much it. So thank you for listening. And I'm excited to learn from Jessica, my neighbor in Middletown, and Martina.
All right, so I'm using my cell phone because for some reason my laptop, I don't know if it's the bandwidth, it's not letting me, so I don't know, we'll try to do it with my cell phone because it's a little bit different. Let me see if I could share, because it says here the screen sharing disabled. To share your screen.
That's a good, do you want me to share your slideshow for you?
Because it says here to share your screen, ask the organizer to make you the presenter. So it's been disabled by whoever's in charge.
All right, I can pull up your slides.
Oh, perfect.
All right. Is loading.
Okay, so first I would like to say I see my students once a week. So they have about 40 minutes of language. So I go to 2 buildings. So we're trying to figure out something that works since I do see them for a limited time. So we have choice boards, and we also have to make virtual lessons. So I'll just walk you through what we do and how to, certain websites like Screencastify and WeVideo. So you can go to the second slide. Thank you.
Got it.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's just taking a little time.
So most importantly, inhala, exhala. We have to just take a breath because this has been overwhelming for everyone. I always get emails from parents. Everyone's just trying to just survive. So just most importantly, tell my students it'll be okay. Whatever happens, we'll try to figure it out for them. Or if not, I work with, try to modify assignments. But most importantly, I just want to make sure that when you are doing interpretive assignments using interpretive mode, to keep in mind the 504 and IP that we are modifying our lessons as well, because you don't want to lose the student. So that's what I've been trying to, that's what my lessons do, try to incorporate and include everybody to be inclusive. So we can go to the third slide. So finding some ideas of videos and resources. So I start with videos like recipes that they can follow and even do from home. So for example, I'll be using a video on how to make ensalada de frutas, Colombian style. So if you click on the hyperlink, you'll see it's about less than a minute long, and they're going over their las frutas, and even just comparing how we do an ensalada de fruta here in the States versus Colombia, because we do add queso. And so they can see that, and there's la receta as well. So you can click on the la receta, the recipe, and also the link. If you notice, it's hyperlinked, that you can check out the video just for some ideas. We do have yoga in target language, so YouTube does offer great instruction with that, and the kids really love it. For my older kids, definitely do like watching a cartoon like Daniel Tigre, Peppa Pig, and then I have usually ask them questions about it, and they are really excited that they can understand those cartoons. So it really keeps them encouraged. And we have ed puzzles as well. I know that also Senor Caleb Howard, he has amazing YouTube videos as well, and I believe that Noemi put that also right in the site. Oh, could you hear me? Sorry.
Yep, the link is on the general slide sharing page.
Okay. And I can go to the next one, because it's all like they can, like, you can link when you have your own time. You could just go and click on the links. And if you can't find videos, make them. You know your students. So I, like Ariane, I'm very shy, reserved in a way. So for me to put myself out there and make my videos, it was a lot. So it's trial and error. So if you want more control of the videos, you can mark it as unlisted, so not everyone can see it. And it's just like a great way it's just like a 4-minute video. My first video is talking about La Primavera, and I use certain apps as well. And thanks to Twitter, I believe that Angela Williams talked about an app called Clipomatic, which has been great, and I also included that. So if, like I said, if you can't find videos, make them. And then my next slide, I include different edit tools that you can use. So apps and sites used to edit WeVideo. So I'm not sure, you can ask your tech person in your school if you have a subscription, because we do. Screencastify, 5 minutes. Usually they give you like 5 free minutes, but I added the link. If you enter a code CASTCOVID, there it'll explain step by step, so you can get unlimited access to it. So hopefully that will work and help if you haven't been using it. We have Imovie. All of you probably are familiar with that. Clipomatic, that was shared by Angela Williams on Twitter. I loved it, that idea, and I use that to include in my videos. And Clips as well. So that's a free app. And you can go to the next one. Screencast. Oh, sorry. Oh, before that one. That one, thank you. Screencastify, modeling and making it more interactive with the guidance through your voice or video recording. So if you don't mind, Noemi, if you can click on the We Fit. So I found these, I don't know, I went to a PD and someone said, oh, this would be a great brain break. I don't know who it is to give the credit for, because I don't remember, but it was a great idea. And I used Screencastify with my voice for a little brain break with the students, for like my kindergarten first graders. Someone says La Maestra Loca that. Thank you so much. I'm like, somewhere, I know I've been to so many awesome PDs, but if it's not able to load, they could have access to it, which is like a We Fit obstacle course where you're like, corre, salta, pare, you're going over certain things. So but that's okay, Noemi. If you can't get access to that, it's fine. You can also have virtual tours with that you could be their personal guide. So that's what I'll be doing with my older kids. And Flipgrid Fun. So I have an extension with my YouTube videos. So from my K-2, we're talking about La Primavera y los colores. And so there's an extension I use, Flipgrid. So if you have an example, I model it first. I feel like it's very important for Flipgrid to model it. First, and record yourself on Flipgrid so the kids know how to use it. And so so for instance, my K-2 kind of need the guidance. So I say, okay, this is how my video looks. You can make it look and personalize it, but I always model it first. So it's very important to do that. And then there's a clip so you can go on there and check out my grid that I made. And you can go to the next one. And then most importantly, Twitter. I've gotten so much amazing resources and met so many amazing world language educators from around the world. And just follow the hashtag where there's early lang chat. There's so many, and you get to connect and just collaborate, because that's where we're at. This is the new way of our PDs. So I definitely encourage, if you don't have a Twitter account, to have a Twitter account. Open one up, even if you want to make it self-private, and just explore. And so just keep in mind, we are all just trying to survive. So I have the meme, oh, tranquilo, tranquilo. Just keep in mind that we're, not only for us, but also for our students, because it could be overwhelming. So if you get a little irritated at doing Google Translate, just give them the grace there, and just make a joke about it, because I see that a lot of teachers are getting a little frustrated. It's just give them, cut them some slack, and also ourselves. So, but if you want to, you could see for Screencastify, I did add a code there, so you can have access and just, use whatever I've added. So just to save yourself some money as well. Because I know that if you don't add the code, it's going to cost, they're going to charge you. So for the Screencastify. But yeah, thank you so much. If you have any questions, you can please reach out on Twitter, or you can email me as well.
Jessica, thank you so much. That was so cool. I love that.
No, I apologize that the links weren't working, but I think it's just because the bandwidth. I think we're using too much. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it was my fault.
But yeah, they can definitely explore the websites and the links that I included there.
Very cool. Oh my gosh, so many great ideas from our presenters so far. I have I'm so glad I thought to put a notebook next to me so that I could just scribble down all of these ideas that I can then proceed to steal. All right, so our last presenter for today is Mrs. Martina Bex, if she is in the house.
Hi, I'm in the house.
Excellent. Do you need help sharing a screen, or are you good
We're
to go?
We're about to find out. I'm a little terrified because it seems like every once in a while this stops working with me, but can you see this right now? The blue.
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, interpretive mode. Well, this is my favorite mode all the time, whether in person or from a distance, and figuring it out for distance learning is super critical. So I'm just going to kind of walk through 3 steps with y'all. Why interpretive mode matters, where we can find text for students to interpret, and then what kind of tasks to design with them. So first of all, why it matters. This is a super simplified version of Bill Van Patten's input processing model. He approved this graphic, so although it's simplified, it is accurate. So just to remember how language acquisition happens, it happens through input. Input drives the whole process. So when students read language and when they listen to language, all of that language goes into their heads and their brain starts to try to process it. If their brain is able to link the chunks of language to meaning, they receive that input as intake, and that it's added to their mental representation of language, which is the way that language is stored in their brains, and they can draw on that from output. When students receive input, it comes into their heads. If their brain cannot create a link between the pieces of language, the forms in that language and meaning, those forms that the brain can't process are just dumped. They're totally useless to a student. So we really want to provide our students not just with any input, but input that is highly processable. And that's why you hear a lot of teachers talking about comprehensible input, because this is input that students are able to make sense of, that their brains are able to process. And the students will be able to process some chunks of language in any input, but what I was going for in my classes and what I try to provide through my curriculum is the maximum amount of processable input in any chunk of, in any section of text. Input is indispensable to language acquisition. The whole process of language acquisition depends on this. And so this becomes the challenge as we're away from our students. There are so many activities that are super, that are already set up for distance learning that are like grammar drills. You know, there's endless grammar drill sites, vocabulary drill sites. You could assign those to students all day long. And it's not that those are completely without value, but it's really that contextualized, comprehensible input that is going to keep our students moving forward even when they're away from our classrooms. Although comprehension cannot guarantee acquisition, acquisition cannot happen if comprehension doesn't occur. So beyond just finding texts, whether it be reading material or listening material for your students, you want to find texts that they can understand, that their brains are able to process. And that's an even bigger challenge because, again, there's a lot of authentic resources out there, which are wonderful, and I love using them. But they can also be really stressful for students that already don't really want to be doing their schoolwork while they're home. So we want to make it easy, pleasant for students. So where can you find these elusive, comprehensible texts? I'm going to show you a whole bunch of resources, and this slideshow is going to be shared with you so you can follow the links. So first of all, Ariane talked about this. Fluency Matters has their e-courses. I believe their free e-course offer has expired, but they do have a deal still. You can get a super discounted rate, and they have tons of different books on there for all different levels and quite a few different languages for teachers that you can really recreate that experience of reading a novel together with your students through this remote learning period. Garbanzo is my website. It's just for Spanish and it's only reading at this time. We'll be adding audio later this year, but for right now, just reading. We have about 600 different lessons on Garbanzo, and they are all written for starting from a student who has never taken any Spanish before, going all the way up through when students would start accessing authentic text. So tons of different lessons, and they're written purposefully for students to understand. There's a lot of stories, and then there's also a lot of informational nonfiction texts. We did a set of lessons about COVID-related news stories, including this one that you see here on the slide. And those are available through our 30-day free trial, which you can sign up for still. Revista Literal. This reminds me, I still got to get the story published for today. We have been publishing, again, this is just for Spanish, but if anybody wants to take up a similar project for another language, I would be happy to share with you the process. On this website, I publish every single weekday a story that is written by a Spanish student somewhere in the world. So Spanish students can submit stories that they've written. I have a team of volunteers now helping me. They look through the stories. They find, each day they find one story that they can kind of work with. They edit it, and then we add glossed vocabulary and images, and we publish it on this blog for other students to read. So it's totally free. It's a way for your students to become famous. I just checked the stats yesterday, and it gets between 3,000 and 5,000 views a day. So if you have any students that would be highly motivated by becoming a famous author, then you should definitely recommend to them that they check it out. I just had this moment where I was like, I hope you guys can still hear me. So Revista Literal, you can check that out. Oh, and then every day during the school closures, we've been sharing an activity at the end of the post. So if you just need something for your students to do and you're overwhelmed and you don't want to come up with anything, just say every day, look at the new post on Revista Literal, read the story and do the activity and send it to me, and we will take care of your lesson planning for you. We also have El Mundo en Tus Manos. Maris Hawkins and I published this with the help of Nellie Hughes. Every other week, we have 5 news stories in Spanish There's a really simple level, the one that you see here, the level A reading, and then there's a little bit of a more complex text, and we have activities to go along with it. Every 2 weeks, all sorts of news stories from the Spanish-speaking world. Senor Woolley, Ariane talked about as well. He has a ton of distance learning plans in addition to just his normal content. I keep clicking out of this. I'm sorry, guys. By the way, distance learning and teaching kind of sucks. I just want to say that. I feel like everything that can possibly go wrong will go wrong every time, and it's really stressful. So I've been trying to navigate with my own kids, and then answering questions from teachers that are using our resources. So just had to say that. For French teachers, Cécile Lenné has made all of her archived. She does the same, a news publication for French teachers, just like we do for Spanish. She has made all of her old ones free, I believe, right now. So you can go in her Teachers Pay Teachers store. It's Toward Proficiency. And if you don't follow her blog, she shares a ton of free resources for French teachers. So make sure you're connected with her. There's an ongoing subscription for this year right now that I believe this may be, that's not free, but totally worth it. Sarah Breckley on YouTube. I've been having so much fun watching her videos for Spanish teachers again. She makes really fun videos for students. So all of these resources that I just clicked through, these are all going to provide your students with texts that are written for them to understand. So these are not talking about authentic resources. These are teacher created. And so they're for those novice to intermediate level learners that really are that would find little processable input in an authentic resource. Now, when you're in class, of course, the first thing that you do is you try to help, you find a text, or you provide your students with a text, or you talk to them, and then you have to follow up with them to make sure that they understand what you thought they were understanding. You do things like gesturing and rephrasing and all of this stuff, so that when you're in class, your students, the goal anyway, is that they're understanding everything that's happening. But when they're not with you, you can give them all of these texts that are reasonably comprehensible, but there's no way for you to kind of do those interventions that you would do in class and to make sure that they're actually understanding what you think they would understand. So here are some of the strategies listed out here that I think that you can find ways to recreate that experience for your students and help them to process the input that you're providing to them in the way of comprehensible audio text and comprehensible reading materials. So asking questions, simplifying sentences, rephrasing, linking meaning to L1, sheltering vocabulary, personalizing, and illustrating. Those can all be recreated in the digital platform. And I'm not going to walk through all of them in detail because I only have a few minutes. So here's how we do it with Garbanzo. As you can see, each Garbanzo lesson is broken down into digestible chunks of text. So we're presenting one piece of information at a time, often with visual support like you see here. So that's your illustration. And then we embed all of these, we call them challenge questions in the reading. And the purpose for these questions is not to make sure that students understand. So they're not like quiz questions. They're designed to be processing questions, clarifying questions that are helping students to reflect on what they've just read. So in the same way that in class, if you say a sentence to your students, and then you backtrack and you maybe ask a question about it to make sure that students understood, or you provide a little bit of background knowledge, we're trying to recreate that in Garbanzo. This is one of our distance learning lessons. Let's see, for Unit 8 of the Somos curriculum. So we have an audio text, which is having all kinds of problems, but it's there because technology. But students listen, and then as they're listening, we have provided these written questions for them to follow along with. So just like Ariane said with Edpuzzle, where you can embed questions. Look for opportunities to give your students questions to complete while they're listening to things that are going to help them process what they're hearing. So you see here these either or questions. I think that Ariane mentioned that she uses those in Edpuzzle. Either or questions are so great because it gives students a second exposure to the language, and it also helps them to clarify what is being said by setting it apart from what isn't being said. So can he find his tarantula or can't he find his tarantula? Oh yeah, he can find his tarantula. Cesar asked if Revista Literal is appropriate for heritage learners or too simple. I would say it's probably too simple for a lot of heritage learners, but spot on. We have a lot of heritage learners that have been submitting stories for Revista Literal, which is really fun. So we've been publishing those stories. And if they are too advanced for a non-heritage learner, then we will provide an embedded reading. So we'll include 2 versions of the reading. I don't know if more people are asking questions, so I just happened to check on that one. So first, find text that your students can understand, and then look for ways to help them process the input by giving them questions, by, if you're giving them a full text, if you want them to read a big article, see if you can put it into a document and kind of break up the pieces of that text with questions or by inserting background knowledge. Again, not so that you can see if they really are understanding, but those little pieces of information and little processing questions that can help them understand. And actually, I have a video tutorial on YouTube about circling questions that would be helpful if you're like, what are you talking about? I don't know about these kind of questions. Check out that tutorial. I can link that somewhere. And then designing tasks to support comprehension, that kind of goes in with this last chunk. So here's some questions from our last issue of El Mundo en Tus Manos. It was about some zoo babies born in a zoo in Guatemala, because everybody needs a few more zoo babies in their life right now. But you can see here that we wrote clarifying questions. These either or questions, I think I used to think of them as kind of junk because anybody could answer them. They wouldn't even have to really understand. But what I've found is that if I'm not using them for an assessment, if my purpose is getting students to look back at the text and reread it again, then either or questions are great because they really build confidence. And again, they help students to process what they read or what they listened to. So using either or questions in your assignments.
Martina, I'm sorry to interrupt. We lost the screen share. Would you mind sharing your screen again?
Oh, yeah. No,
cool. I think someone stole it from you.
How dare they? Okay, let's see. Okay, can you see the timeline?
Cool. Yep, we're up.
Okay, so graphic organizers are another one. I got really, well, mostly I was just looking for a distraction from another project I was working on over the last couple of days because I was feeling overwhelmed. And so I made a bunch of graphic organizers, but those are really helpful. You can find, zillions and zillions of templates online that are available both in print and digital format. And those are a really good way if you find an appropriate graphic organizer for the task you're wanting students to accomplish, to help students organize their thinking and process what they've been learning. With Revista Literal, this was one of the assignments that we shared at the end of one of our readings. So this was with an embedded reading, which embedded reading is a strategy that was developed by Lori Clark and Michelle Whaley. And basically it's giving students multiple versions of the same text. A very simple version, a little bit more detailed version, a more detailed version, and you could go on forever. But giving students 2 versions of a text and then having them compare the 2 texts is a really easy way to help them, again, get back into the text and process what they've read. Edpuzzle, Ariane talked about this. She used the exact same way that I do. Don't think about this as a way to quiz your students and see if they are understanding. think about the questions that you build into Edpuzzle as a way to help students understand as they go through. So in this, I created this Edpuzzle for Unit 9 of the SOMOS Level 1 curriculum. And it's just such a wonderful retelling of the legend of El Cucuy. It's in Spanglish, so that he goes back and forth between Spanish and English. But I used, when I wrote the questions for this, and this is publicly available, so you guys can search for a version of this. In each question that I would write a sentence in Spanish first that kind of simplified what he had just said or clarified. So thinking about that technique for supporting comprehension of simplifying sentences or rephrasing. So I rephrase it and then I ask a question based on what I rephrase. So the students heard the authentic text, then they read the simplified version and respond to a question to help them process it. And then I know Julia and Noemi said that everybody wants to know about interpretive assessment. And my one big thought about that is, do you really have to do interpretive assessment right now? And maybe you do. So maybe that's totally required. Maybe you have to. But if you don't have to right now, just get rid of it. Forget about interpretive assessment. If you aren't absolutely required to do it, do away with it, because if students can find a way to cheat, they will find a way to cheat. And it doesn't matter how tricky you are, how many little hacks you use to, limit their ability to use Google Translate, to lock down their browser. If a student wants to cheat when they're at home, they are going to cheat. So do you really, 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 really have to assess? And if you do, then when we talk about interpretive assessment, oh, my kids are trying to break in the room. When we talk about interpretive assessment, you want to figure out, okay, do I want to assess their interpretation of authentic texts, or do I want to assess their interpretation of teacher-created texts? And I have this whole blog post called How to Grade Reading Comprehension on my blog. I recommend for teachers using my curriculum, because the students in level 1 and 2 are mostly working with teacher-created texts, that teachers stick to that for assessment. However, I know there's definitely valid reasons for teachers to land on the authentic text side of things. So when you provide your students with text that you want them to interpret for assessments, I think Google Forms is a great way to go. And one little trick that I shared in a YouTube video recently, you can look it up, is this password function. So you can kind of lock down your form. Again, it's not totally foolproof. If a student really wants to cheat, they're going to find a way to share this link with other people. But you create your assessment in a Google form. Make the first question, what is your first and last name? Okay, the kid can put whatever they want in there. They might not put their first and last name. And if they're trying to break in and see what the assessment is ahead of time, they probably won't. That's okay. And then you put a question that says, what is the password? And you'll see these 3 little dots down here in the bottom right corner. If you click on that, you can pull up an option, which now actually I can't think of what it is. Well, you can look at my YouTube video. Anyway, and it'll pull up this thing. And so if you put it in a regular expression, contains, and then you put in a word, students will have to put in that word in order to continue on in the form. And then start a new section, which is this little, it's the last icon here on the forms tools. It's the double horizontal bars. That creates a new section. So students won't be able to get past this first screen unless they put in a password that contains this word that you've chosen. So yes, your students could share the password and the link of the assessment with other classes, but it's just in a whole extra level of difficulty. You could use different passwords for different classes. If students get in and they've put in a wrong name, at least you can see that some kids got in and saw the assessment that shouldn't have seen it, and then you can decide if you want to keep moving forward with it or not. So those are my thoughts on interpretive mode from a distance. Now I'm going to try to stop sharing my screen.
And you did that too. Well done.
Thanks.
That was That was amazing. Thank you so much, Martina.
Yeah.
So many cool ideas. I think my favorite, I wrote down this quote while you were talking, don't use questions, and like going back to what Ariane said too, don't use questions to quiz students to see if they understand, use the questions to like help them understand and like inform yourself as the teacher about what they understand so that they can do other stuff with it later.
Yeah, well, you think that's what you would be doing in the classroom. And as much as this will never be a classroom setting, you want to recreate it as much as possible. And in class, you would never just plow through if your kids aren't. So you've got to look for ways to recreate that same class function in the virtual realm.
So true. Oh, that's amazing. I have so many notes. I had to turn the page like 3 times. This is so exciting. All right, peeps in the chat room, what questions or comments do you have for any of our presenters or myself or anyone else that I might choose to throw under the bus randomly? Noemi, what do you got?
Yeah, just to help navigate what folks are asking about. So they were asking about the Google form validation, and Stephanie shared that it's within response validation. You have to set that up as a quiz. And I did watch Martina's tutorial when she pushed it out, and it's very thorough. So if you have a few minutes, if you're looking to set that up in Google Forms, she does a really nice job just breaking it down so that way you can set it up with your students to password protect it if you want to launch it out. There were also some questions that came through about just where folks can find the resources, but I've been linking things within the slideshow as Martina was also talking to help everyone. Stephanie is answering as well. It's not so much a function as much as asking for a short answer text response using response validation to enable the students to move forward in the form. Stephanie, I know, is Google trained and Google certified as another New Jersey teacher. So she's very knowledgeable. So thank you to Stephanie for her intel on this. We're getting a lot of positive feedback about the resources shared.
Here's a question for Jessica that I saw. Let's see here. Mary wants to know, when you assign something like Daniel Tiger or Peppa Pig, are you sending the students to a link on YouTube or are you sending them somewhere else?
Yes, well, I have a choice board. So within that choice board, I say watch the first 8 minutes, and then I have some words that I think that are be like a little hard for them to understand. So I'll just put that as like, all right, new vocab, and I'll say first 8 minutes, watch it, and then they reply back with what they understood, what if they had any questions. So it's within my choice boards, yes, but it's in the YouTube. But make sure you preview it, like, and double check it, because that's the only thing I could say, just because like this is all new for us. And yeah, it's definitely in the YouTube. But if you can give me your email, I could give you a copy of my choice board to check it out, because I could do that as well. So I use my YouTube links as like a prime source, and the choice boards are like a follow-up lesson that they could pick.
Awesome. I have to say, the previewing it beforehand, I can attest to that. If any French teachers in here have ever used Trotro, it's like a cute little cartoon with like a donkey, and he's a little kid and he does all this stuff. You would be amazed at the advertisements that show up before Trotro on YouTube that you really do not want your students watching. So definitely helpful. You can always download the video if you need to.
Yeah, definitely.
We got a question from Jenny, by the way, about already made resources for poetry, if anyone has any ideas, any of our facilitators.
Oh, it looks like Martina's internet cut out.
Oh no.
But I mean, we couldn't have really asked for much better timing. Like, it would have been great if it waited till 4 o'clock, but we made it through our whole presentation, so I'm gonna call that a win.
Yeah, also folks are talking about Flipgrid. Today actually with my team, we did a little Flipgrid tutorial, so I'll share like the first 15 minutes with you all. But just, I would appreciate if you, because I recorded the screen, and I asked teachers that were on there if it's okay to record, but I told them I wasn't going to publicize it, so please don't reshare my YouTube video.
I wanted to put in another plug. I forget, I think Jessica mentioned doing yoga in the target language. That has been a godsend for me. I don't know about the rest of you, but I am a high school French teacher and my students are doing entirely synchronous learning. So they're spending a lot of hours every day sitting in front of screens, and just giving them permission to get up and do like a 20-minute yoga video. And even my French 1 students can do it because they can follow along with the video even if they're not understanding all of the language. So FLENJ has a whole bunch of yoga and Pilates videos that are about 20 minutes long. If you just do a search for like L, like the magazine, on YouTube, tons and tons of resources there. And I just put up the link. The students can choose the ones that they want. And that has been really, really helpful, because even if they need to move a muscle, they're still staying in the target language during class.
There's another question too thank you, Julia, for sharing that, because I love yoga in multiple languages. That's so fun. Doug asked, any suggestions for sites with simple French language text stories read aloud by native speakers? I know that Audible pushed out free stories in different languages, but it's more for an L1 sort of situation because they're so advanced.
Yeah.
But we talked about the Fluency Matters e-readers. I know that they had some available in both Spanish and French, but I'm not sure if that promotion is still happening.
I know of, they're not stories, but Gabfla has a bunch of interviews that are ranked by DELF level. So like A1, A2, B1, B2, with native speakers. A lot of them have comprehension questions. I'm going to put the link in here. And also Lisa Shepard recently launched with in a collaboration with some other educators, Fluent Key, which has a ton of videos that are, all of them are based off of authentic resources. Some of them have teacher created or teacher modified texts, but there's a lot of great input for French students there. Lena asked if there are any suggestions for Italian. I really should know more about that than I do.
I mean, folks that are asking about all these languages too, Pinterest for me is where I store and hub everything that I find. I can't speak to the, I guess, credibility and accuracy of the Italian languages documents and things that I found, because I'm by trade, I'm a Spanish teacher, but I do have a Pinterest board set up with Italian, a lot of authentic realia and things that I found over the years. So Pinterest for me, if you're looking for great sources, that's usually my first go-to.
Definitely. I also wanted to do a quick plug. We've talked a lot about Edpuzzle today. There is a website called Insert Learning that has a Chrome extension, and it basically functions as Edpuzzle for online text or websites. So if you download the Chrome extension, it basically allows you to save a version of a website. And there are some really great tutorials, both on YouTube and on the Insert Learning website. You can insert like little videos of yourself explaining or giving more context to your students. You can put in comprehension questions and vocabulary notes. So that has been a really helpful resource for me, especially as I start moving away from teacher created texts and into authentic texts. Giving my students that extra scaffolding has been really helpful. So highly recommend, and I'm going to put it in the chat, Insert Learning. And if you do a Google search, it's the first thing that comes up. So, and there is a free version, and it gives you, I want to say it's like 20, you can save like 20 websites or something like that before they ask you to pay for it. So that has been a godsend for me, especially as I get my students used to like reading news articles from Le Monde or something that can be really complex. That's been super helpful.
Robin also shouted out Leslie Gron's Pinterest board, which if you've ever gone to Leslie Gron's anything, it's just so informative, and there's so many resources that Leslie shares out on her blog and then on her Pinterest pages, you can kind of go down a very serious like rabbit hole if you start really uncovering all of Leslie's great shares. So my recommendation, because I'm feeling like a lot of people are so happy with all of these resources, start with one, start with two, start small, because it can get overwhelming to like dive into all of this at one time. So go with one thing right now, one tool, one resource, and focus on that and see if that can help with your distance learning lessons next week. But start simple and start small. Plus your students too. It's a lot to navigate all at once. So
yeah, and the great thing is all of this is going to be relevant forever. It's not like we're going to stop using all of these resources when we get to go back to school and see our students. So we can use this for practice outside of class. We could use this for a sub-plan. So, you know, like Noemi said, there's no reason that you can't kind of put all of these things in your back pocket and try one for right now, or whatever your level of overwhelm allows you to do. So, all right. Any final questions, comments? Oh, Lisa put something great. Edilingua publishes for Italian teachers. So she put the link in the chat for that. Teresa put something else in there. So, yeah, oh my gosh, guys, so many great resources today. This is fabulous. All right. So, our presenters, facilitators, any final thoughts or messages? I don't know if Martina ever made it back in. Maybe they all just left. They were like, all right, I'm out.
I'm here, and thank you guys so much for facilitating. I really appreciate it.
Ariane, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. I'm so excited to try all of these things that you suggested. And when I do say all of them, I do kind of mean all of them, but I'm going to pace myself like Noemi suggested.
Oh, thank you.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Look for the email that has the link to the Google feedback form. And if, again, just another plug, if you are in a financial position that allows you to support FLENJ by making a donation, the link to that will be in your thank you email as well. And as a reminder, the PD certificate for today will be available to you once you fill out that feedback form. And we also have a link for you to register for other tech chats that are coming up next week and the following week if you haven't gotten a chance to do so. Thank you so much for joining us today. What?
Is this session recorded? I just joined from Texas and didn't realize that we were at a different time. So
yes,
I lost all the info.
As soon as we close it out, the video will be processed and we will get it up on the FLENJ YouTube channel as soon as possible. So be sure to hit that subscribe button.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a safe and restful night. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.